market as a vehicle is essentially what we call showing collection to a customer.
Yeah.
The way we used to show it was trade shows, children's runway shows.
Yeah.
How we show it in this interim period is digitally. But say next year things get back a little bit more to normal, whatever that form will take, there is still a market.
Yeah.
We still develop a collection, we still need to sell that collection.
That would be interesting to see after post-COVID, how is it going to go back to normal?
Yeah.
I hope it does, because I think there's an aspect of interaction of your buyers from Neiman Marcus, from Dallas coming in and you interacting with them and talking it live and exchanging stories and talking about obviously the product, the sell-throughs. Right now, actually everything functions perfectly.
Yeah.
There's no drawback.
There's
to
more
it.
a desire as opposed to necessity to go back to
Exactly.
a little bit of the norm. So I don't think, I don't want to look into a crystal ball and assume what's going to happen, but let's say there's a hybrid that happens. Walk us through the steps, regardless of what market looks like today, yesterday, or in the future. What are the steps that you need to do as a brand that's going to market? What would be the absolute must preparatory steps that a company needs to take prior to taking that collection and showing it to, or hoping that they can show it to someone?
Yeah. Well, I think COVID or no COVID, the preparation is the same, and that's never going to change, because it's something that you have to do. It's a procedure of how you get from point A to point Z.
Yeah.
And that's never going to change, regardless of the market. But and what does that mean? I guess like for this audience to understand, like in the very beginning, obviously the designer makes the collection. They have a vision. They start with the vision boards. They say like, okay, this is what we see is going to be the trend. They take all kinds of pictures. They put it on a big board, and this is something where the motivation and inspiration comes to the designer from. From that point on, then the actual designer, the sketches, they start sketching. From that board is a motivation. Now they put it in their head, and the sketcher starts sketching the actual collection. They use, or actually you use some kind of guideline, depending on, of course, what kind of company you work for or whatever you're doing, whether you're going to have more categories, pants, or is it going to be just jackets. You sketch them up and you put them together, and you try to put them together, of course. Like in the end, it's a totally different story. They sketch immense amount of sketches. They color them. They put swatches on every one of these sketches. And then once it's done, then they start narrowing it down, and then they take out, well, this one doesn't go with this.
Who's narrowing it down?
The designers. Initially, the designers, they say like, oh, we won't need this, etc.
Yep.
And they put it on one side.
Yep.
And this is what often happens, actually. This would be interesting, because once that the designers then trim it down, then they invite the sales team to come in. And this is where the sales team, in my opinion, is crucial, because in the end, sales drive, or sales bring profits to the company.
Yeah, careful with that statement, but
Well, they're crucial, but one cannot coexist without the other.
Exactly.
In other words, if you have a good designer and no sales, nothing's going to happen. And if you have a great salesperson without a product, nothing's going to happen. So they coexist, but the sales, in my opinion, sales is extremely important, because you have to make sure that your salespeople or whoever is selling it, they believe in the product.
Absolutely.
Because if they don't believe in the product, it's not going to come from the heart.
Yeah.
And we're in this industry. Why? Because it comes from here. It's passion.
absolutely.
So for that matter, anybody that does anything, if it doesn't come from your heart, you're not gonna sell it as good as, it has to come from there. So salespeople sit, then they start communicating with the designer, and then they say like, well, and this is what happens obviously to me, and like to all my salespeople, I ask them, okay, so who's buying that dress? Who's buying that shirt? Who's buying that pant? And I need them to answer me by client, not like I think I can sell, because this is where you also have to stay extremely objective. Because when you see something, you will obviously automatically refer to yourself.
Yeah.
I like this. But
Doesn't
that's
matter.
not the point.
That's not the
That's not the point. You have to be so focused on what your clients want, and you have to know your clients.
Yeah.
So when I would bring my salespeople in the room, I would ask them, okay, like who's buying that? Who's buying that? And if they can't answer it to me, like I take it out.